I know that Mike Perry, who's kind of mixed up in this whole Logan Paul debacle that we should probably touch on because it is relevant. Mike Perry found out he was 2% African American when he ran his DNA.
Okay, I want to explain that I took a DNA test and the results came back French and German, British and Irish, and I was 2% African. So I am legally allowed to say the word nigga.
Lots of people are like probably I'm not. 99.7% European. All right, British and Irish. 90 is 63%. It seems like most of my ancestors hail from
mostly Irish,
London and Dublin, Ireland. Yeah. 16% French and German. A little bit of Scandinavian. Some
the classic self-hating Irishman.
Yeah. Yes, just a speck. No, there's a speck of Spanish and Portuguese. Just a little, just a taste.
Did you say speck on purpose for that one?
I did.
It took me a second to catch on.
Here's the most interesting thing out of the whole thing. So I also did. I could show you like the screenshots of like all the traits, but it's literally like nothing bad and everything good. It's kind of boring.
Where's the Neanderthal part? That
right here. Yeah. That spoiler alert. I have 315 Neanderthal
that
variants.
Silhouette picture.
This is more than 95% of 23andMe customers. I have more Neanderthal variants than 95% of the people who have ever been tested.
And you're still only in second place on this podcast.
So he uses the N-word freely. He's like with
That's
the,
only private.
no hard R or anything, but he's just like in a friendly kind of way, like, yeah, ninja, yeah. Like he thinks he's fine to say it. The other one is Tito Ortiz. I saw Tito Ortiz doing an interview. There's this black guy. He's an older gentleman. He clearly has some beef against other black people. He's the right-wing older black gentleman you may have seen on TikTok and stuff. They'll be like, are we supposed to just forget about, what happened to you, the racism, this and that? Did you just forget? He goes, yes. He's great. He's just like, yeah, I forgot about it.
Destiny maybe debated him a couple times.
Probably so.
Yeah.
It's that guy. What was I talking about? What was I going to talk about?
Tito Ortiz and him seem to have
him and Tito were sitting there together, and he was like, Tito was like, yeah, I know how. He said something like, I know how it feels. Look at me. I feel like I'm black. I mean, I look like a gorilla, and it's just like, fuck. But you look at Tito, and he does look like show me Tito Ortiz. Show me just a picture of Tito Ortiz, who's a very white man. What was he was the fucking.
I think he's Mexican.
Ortiz, that's a good
Ortiz. Clue. Yeah, it's good. But what was his fighter name? He's the something city bad boy.
Huntington Beach. I'm close. Huntington.
Yeah, Brighton Huntington? Beach, something like that.
It's Huntington. I just can't pronounce Cali, the word. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Man. So a big thing happened with the UFC, Taylor. I think that this might bring in some fans like you who are sort of peripheral fans and really enjoy maybe some of the more spectacle fights occasionally, or maybe you're at a place and you're like, yeah, I'll watch that, but you'd never buy.
Yeah.
The USADA, who is the United States Anti-Doping Association, if you ever saw that, remember, did you see Icarus about the big Russian Olympic doping scandal back in the day, that big documentary Icarus? On Netflix.
I have not seen it. No.
Well, in that, this guy Jeff Nowitzki is kind of a central figure in it. And he's the guy who's, if not running the USADA, he's definitely like the point man and the face of it publicly, as far as testing athletes and sort of speaking on athlete testing, etc. With the UFC. And the UFC's had this big thing recently where they want Conor McGregor back. He's been out for roughly 2 years, healing a leg injury. He had a huge break of his leg, and he's clearly been on performance-enhancing drugs, not only to get big and bulky and fun and saucy and look cool, but to heal the leg. And he's been been out of USADA testing that whole time. Now he wants to come back in and fight a fight. They want him in January. That's me talking, because a lot of his fights have been in January, and January's when they traditionally don't really have a lot going on. People don't want to fight in January. So sticking Conor McGregor there, like they did when he fought Cowboy, or like they did last time he fought Poirier, they get this huge bump in the numbers to begin the calendar year, because he's either 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 of the top 10 pay-per-views of all time. You're talking about like over 1 million buys at $80 a pop on an already subscription-based service. So it's huge money. It's crazy. He wants to come back and fight, and they probably want him as soon as possible. But USADA has a rule: you have to be in our program for 6 months. Give us a blood sample now, and at least one more, and then in 6 months you can fight. And he's been in a dispute with them over this because he's saucy, and he just finally signed the thing. Like, yeah, I'm in. I don't know that he gave them a sample. He says he did. It's foggy. But the next day, like October 7th, he gives them the sample or signs up or whatever. October 8th, USADA announces we are no longer partnered with the UFC, despite good talks in May about continuing our decade-long plus service with them. We will be parting ways because of X, Y, and Z. And it's clearly because they don't want to put up with the nonsense of Conor coming back, because they did it once before back in the day, and they allowed Brock Lesnar to come in, smash Mark Hunt without testing. They tested him after the fight. He's hot as a fucking ember.
Melted the cup
because he's a monster. Mark Hunt, on the other hand, eats all that punishment. Bullshit. Then he just recently, and I mean like last month, Mark Hunt lost the lawsuit about that. And that goes back years and years. Mm-hmm. He just lost the lawsuit. So USADA's out. So now, as of January, the UFC doesn't have a dope testing league. So just roid up. A lot of people are saying that on Twitter. Fighters are kind of joking about that. The question will be, isn't if there will be a testing organization, because I'm sure there will be. It's whether they go with VADA or they go with something that's made up. VADA is something people know about. It's already established.
I've heard of VADA, but I don't think I could be wrong, that it's an organization that tests people like USADA is. Mm-hmm. I think it's a set of rules. Like it outlines which drugs are bad and things like that. And it's like, you could do a VADA style test, but I don't think VADA administers tests like USADA.
I heard it spoken of the way I'm describing it, but I don't know anything about it. All I know is the GSP thing back in the day where he asked for VADA testing in his Johnny Hendricks fight, was denied it, nearly lost the fight, and retired after because he was salty about the whole thing. So yeah, I'm excited because I don't give a fuck about steroids. I think that everyone should just use them. They're great for healing. They're great for longevity. And these are guys who get beat up and cut and just have to work out and learn so many techniques, and just to be doing boxing on Monday and jits on Wednesday and running every day and fucking weights and technique, and give them some roids. Let them heal up.
So Kyle's made a really good case for how helpful roids are. It is unsafe to get beaten up by somebody on steroids. It's
unless
unsafe.
You're also
is it more
on
unsafe?
steroids.
Is it more unsafe than just getting beaten up?
Yes, I would much rather be beaten up by a regular person than one who's jacked like that.
You want to fight Taylor for 10 minutes or me for 20? You're going to take the beating either way. In this imaginary scenario, we're both better. But
yeah,
but it's going to take me 20 minutes to beat you up because I'm not as big and strong as roided up Taylor. Taylor gets in there, he's like, bop, boom, you're out. But I'm
used to the deal.
Waters. I'm all natty.
Faster.
We're going 5 rounds, deep waters, ground and pound, elbows.
So in this scenario, Taylor's on roids and you're all natty. You understand my confusion?
Yes.
Yeah. No, you're right. Look, the point would be, Duke can hit harder. He's going to generate more newtons of fucking ass whoop to put onto somebody's brain.
Like if you told me that you were using steroids in baseball, I'd be like, oh, okay, like they should just have even rules, and it's still a little dicey because that means you can't be a baseball player unless you do steroids.
Yeah.
Because now you have to do this drug, which potentially maybe at a level that's not good for you anymore to play this game. And it's like, oh, if you want to be in our league, you have to take these risks. And it'd be nice if that wasn't the case. But at least in baseball, you're not hurting each other. If it's a punching and kicking and strangling sport, and now they're on steroids, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm buying the pay-per-view, but I'm not sure if it's right.
Do you watch that YouTuber? He's like the counter. He's the guy with the white dude with the beard and
Luke Thomas or something. Really boring.
He's like on a webcam, just like talking. He's great. That guy convinced me that the UFC allows their elite to juice, and they basically have the best of both worlds. They don't let it run rampant, so you get like TRT, Vitor, just brain damaging everybody, and like 3 or 4 or 5 of those in every weight class. They just let their creme de la creme, like the Israel Adesanyas and the John Joneses, and probably the the Khabib Nurmagomedovs and like people like that, and Conor McGregor clearly, to, yeah, you need some? Oh, would that help you out? Oh, we look the other way. Man, you do make us a lot of money. They're not going to spend money to help some middling guy who's getting 10,000 to show, 10,000 to win, which I think they pay lower than that still to some people.
This does sync up with everything I've observed. I just haven't really put it together like that. For example, John Jones literally tested hot, right? They tested and they're like, this is just like kind of like a rebound steroid from that time we caught him on steroids 6 or 12 months ago. So
I think they have an agreement
really
now.
Steroids. Okay.
I think they're running a scam now where when they test people, when their stars test positive, they don't announce it and they keep it a secret. I think that Khamzat Chimaev, who was fighting anyone and everyone at 2 weight classes 1 week after the other, tested positive, and he just took a year off. He was doing what I was describing. Anybody, everybody, 170, 185, I don't care. Yeah, I'll fight this week. I'll fight next week. Anybody, I killed them. Allahu Akbar on 9/11, by the way.
Did you say that?
That was the last time he fought, 9/11. So it's been a year and a month, plus a month, 13. Now his suspension is over because he tested positive, but nobody wants to talk about that because it's bad for business. And I bet it happens all the time. Anytime you see some guy take a fucking year off, Colby Covington,
is it Leon Edwards kind of there?
He fought not that long ago, I thought, but I think he's scheduled coming up. I'm a little blanked out. I have a hard time following the scheduling because they go back so much. They just redid this whole card. Anyway, that's probably enough UFC. I thought the USADA thing and potentially going into a steroid era in the 21st century in a major sport like this was cool. Like I like it won't happen.
I enjoy watching UFC, but I'm that kind of fan you described, where like if it's on somewhere, like I have some friends who are very much into it, like you guys are, and so they'll be like, "Hey, come over Saturday night. I'm having people over watching the fights," and like I'll always go do shit like that. But I'm never watching like I have to ask, like, so what's this guy's story? This 7-foot tall Russian guy, what's his deal? And they're like, well, he's an enormous Russian that beats people up. I'm like, all right, well, I inferred that. Is he gonna win? Is he gonna win or lose against this other guy? Oh, well, the other guy's got the hands, but this guy is also a 7-foot tall Russian. So yeah. And then I saw the Russian guy beat that guy up. And then I saw the fat Samoan beat up the taller, fitter guy, which I thought was great. That was a different fight, but that was good. Those guys who do the black tattoos in the love handle area, they're not fooling anyone. Yeah.
Kyle,
I remember that.
Before Kyle was as knowledgeable a fan as he is now, he really liked, who was the fat Southern?
Big Country.
Big Country.
Nelson.
Roy Nelson, yeah. I think Roy Nelson, Big Country. He had a big beard that like came, maybe not quite nipples, but like almost. Mm-hmm. And it was an ugly, scraggly, like what was it, Duck Dynasty looking thing.
It was
all
event.
gray. And I think that he was the first guy to catch Kyle's fancy that I can remember.
I remember when that guy got big, and like my friends that were in it at the time being like, you can't knock this guy out. Just look at how much punishment he can eat. And I was like, he can take 100 times in the face and he was okay.
I don't remember if he won the Ultimate Fighter, but I remember him knocking Brendan Schaub the fuck out and then rubbing that belly. He got bigger. See the beard.
Yeah, this is not like a prime picture that
he got bigger. So
he had a gut like a Buddha.
Yeah, I went to Woody's house and watched my first pay-per-view ever, and it was John Jones, Chael Sonnen, and I think this was the co-main event. Not this fight right here. I don't know. It might have been, but that looks like the Reebok era. It's more likely this was the version of him I saw, because this is back in the crazy logo era.
So this beard is crazy. Dana White,
all of his gloves.
But I remember him being way fatter. Even this, he looks kind of young. Towards the end of his career.
That's when he looked good. When he's got the mullet. See, that's the kind of guy who could be popular now. I think I like
that. What was his name? Is he like the mechanic?
Roy Nelson. He's retired.
He's still fighting. He's just
Big Country.
I don't know where he's fighting now, but he's still fighting. He doesn't look good anymore.
Yeah. Well, did he ever look good?
I mean, you wouldn't want to step in the cage with him.
No shit. I mean? Like obviously, like no shit. Like I don't want to step in the cage with any of these people.
There's the gray beard.
Man. Yeah, but
the thing is, his opponent.
But I mean, in the same way. He wouldn't want to he wouldn't want to play Magic the Gathering against me. So tit for tat. You know,
Really? Yeah.
he's,
Six in one, half dozen in the other.
he's a
Fair to say.
professional fighter. I'm a gay nerd. Like it's, you know, equal part. I just watched the clip. He beat the shit out of Brendan Schaub.
Yeah.
Did
Like
he?
it wasn't even like a full power punch, and it
I think Brendan
rattled him.
Schwab doesn't get his due. Like, he was a top 10 guy. He beat Crow Cop. He wasn't consistent enough to really be a title contender, but
Mhm.
he was a professional fighter.
The trash he gets about that has nothing to do with how good of a fighter he was or wasn't. It's all about like the hate for him because of other things and a myriad of other things that he's done and said, and you know, patterns of behavior that have been noted, and just they really hate him.
They're
really,
right
really
about
hate
everything
him.
they say. Like, I get that. I acknowledge it. All the criticisms they have are real. They're not. I don't see them often making up things. Instead, they're providing video evidence of him. Like let's say a really cool thing happens, right? But you're not the star of the story. You know, this guy did something amazing in reaction to that guy, or this guy had a really snappy comeback, and he tells that story of something he saw. And then the next time he tells the story, he's the main character. He's the guy who said the clever thing. And they catch him in lies like that. But that's not enough to make me hate him.
Yeah, it is those. He has those stories where he said, like, yeah, I saw Dave Chappelle vaping, and I was like, that's just or smoking. I was like, oh yeah, you should vape. He's like, yeah. And he threw his cigarettes away and he switched to vaping right there. Or, you know, like, yeah, Floyd Mayweather just approached me. You know, I wouldn't have talked to him and bothered him, but he came to me. And he was like, you that white boy who works too much. Yeah, that's when I realized. And he's like, yeah, that's when I realized I was working too much. It's just like all of these self-serving stories. He has like 4 where celebrities approach him and say ridiculously complimentary things to him, and then like walk away and some like it's a movie or something. It's something he's making up in his head. It's like, yeah, and then this guy said that to me. He's like, yeah, you're that guy who kicks ass, does comedy. No, none of these stories are, and you know, the whole thing about asking the lady comedian or podcaster or whatever, you know, the Trugwog and all that stuff, and it's you don't know
that this one,
you know, he's a married guy, and I think he like propositioned some podcaster comic ladies like come to my truck and suck my dick, basically. But you know, the way he talks, because he's got a little bit of a thing, the way he pronounces words, they call it the Trugwog. You know, can I wog you to my truck? And you know, and the idea is like he's trying to get her to go out there and suck his dick, and then she told the story and hinted around about. She's like, yeah, there's this ex-UFC fighting Mexican podcaster who's friend with Joe Rogan. I don't want to
could be anyone. Yeah.
But he's a fucking like philanderer creep who tried to make me suck his dick in a parking lot, and he does it to everyone. And it's just, you know, and then there's just tons of stuff they have dislike for him. But as far as his UFC career, yeah, he was fine. I don't want to get in that fucking cage.
No,
I don't get in that fucking cage. Every time I'm watching, if I'm with someone, like a girl especially, I'll be like, this is the worst job in the world. Like look at this. Like, when we're watching the undercard, that third fight of the night, some guy you've never heard of fighting some guy you've never heard of, and he's just getting his brains bashed in on the ground for $8,000. It's like
$8,000.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it starts around there, 8 to show and 8 more to win.
Oh my
So if
god!
you
I
lose-
think professional soccer players make more than that.
If you lose, here comes $8,000.
That's a huge sport.
No, like
I think Formula One drivers make more than that.
I should have said American professional soccer players. Obviously, the European ones are raking it in.
I imagine
Yes.
they do.
You get that $8,000, you lose, and now you have taxes, obviously, but then you've also got employees, right? If you ran any kind of a camp, you've got coaches and perhaps a nutritionist. This is your job, by the way. So the last 6 weeks when you were doing nothing else needs to be financed by this. And your next 3 to 4 months plus another fight camp as well, $8,000 after taxes, coach, rent, like everything. Like, it's the worst job in the world.
I remember Ronda
terrible.
Rousey was fighting someone, and you got to see like UFC used to do these like behind the scenes documentaries leading up to the fight on how they train. And there's Ronda Rousey with like her dedicated coaching team, or her striking guy, this guy, that guy, and she's just working at it like full time. and then her opponent is like a CPA, training after work. It's like doing her best. She's just like in a gym, like it's 80% guys.
Mark from
there.
accounting holds my pass.
No, she just did like what I
can
did.
do
Like,
it.
after work, she'd go to a gym, and like she's not the
Oh.
center of attention like Rhonda is. She's just part of a bunch of guys.
And she's
training.
fighting a former Olympic athlete being trained and cultivated and juiced up. Rhonda was on something by like a whole crew of people. Right before when she got chubby cheeked, that's how I knew. I was like, she didn't used to look like this. She used to be all sexy. She was on some Anavar or something. They were thinning her out. She at some point, and she looked powerful. She would throw those bitches. She put them in that judo headlock throw thing, that trip, and just wah-ha! And
Judo is
30-pound bitches would go flying.
Judo's a cool form of fighting, like throwing people around, and I don't know, like it's so novel compared to the.
I
other
like the one
ones.
where you like flip their arm like over your the movie one.
Like it makes sense though that like you have to be in a judo contest to do that and like make it work, right? Like it's not nobody's in the UFC that's just in that just is a judo master, right?
Not
like
anymore.
Ronda Rousey.
Yeah, Ronda Rousey comes to mind. Cairo Parisian comes to mind. But the point still stands that they tend to be wrestling base is a huge one. Some BJJ, some Muay Thai, but not a lot of judo.
Wrestling makes sense.
Seems like the way they blend martial arts together, that if there's anything judo based, it's like, yeah, twist your ankle like it's judo. Yeah, like a judo throw, but grab the ankle instead. Or oh yeah, it's like a judo throw, but get a gable grip instead of the gi. Or like I'm sure there's stuff like that. Because everything is kind of melded together to. It's like, why would I go by jujitsu rules exactly if it's more better to use a shoot boxing technique or a wrestling technique or just grab him? Why are we don't spin, grab? You know, everything's melded together at this point where it's getting pretty streamlined. Where the best guys are wrestlers who can throw.
Makes sense.
When you're a wrestler, I just real quick, I don't know why I'm getting into it. Let's say I'm really good at taking you down, Taylor. That means you can't keep your hands up here all the time to defend yourself. You have to constantly be ready to stuff my takedown, which involves putting your hands by your knees and sort of your goal is to sort of catch me on either side of my head. Maybe you know this already, and stuff my takedown. Because I can threaten with this takedown, and it's a real problem if I get one, you can't defend your head like you wish you could. So a lot of wrestlers with mediocre boxing have effective boxing because their opponents have to respect the takedown.
And some of the best,
that makes sense.
And like the best in the world are feinting that. They'll get a read on you. They'll go for that. They'll shoot for that takedown 3 times. Maybe they get one and punish you. And now next round you're thinking, cannot let him put me down again. So they feint that they're going for the legs. So you drop your hands and then they come over the top and catch you, just like Khabib did Conor. And you look like an asshole as you fly across the ring and try not to be unconscious.